back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Total Celebrity segment, and now the Media Giant Effect. It'll be really coming soon. Again, I'm rebranding myself the Media Giant, former pro wrestler, 6'10". Hey, you know what? Especially all the shows have done 9,000 plus, and we have another amazing celebrity. But I first introduce my co-host Greg Hanna from Toss C3. Greg, how are you? And you're excited about our guest?
Doing awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to talk to him.
All right, so I am very interested, and I got to remind myself back into the days of Mad TV. And he has to bring me back, like do a timeline deal. So he's a former SNL star and Mad TV star, and now he has a podcast, a deep fake podcast where he's interviewed people like Bill Burr and Alec Baldwin. I'm excited to welcome him, Jeff Richards. Jeff, how are you, man? What's going on?
Hey, good to be here.
All right, so let's just talk about it. Let's just jump right to it. And the way I'm going to jump right to it is specifically enough look at comedian. Was that, you wanted to be a comedian right out of the womb? Were you a class clown? What was it?
Yeah, I just always had that instinct to kind of pop off or wait for a moment in the classroom and then just, just try to throw things off a little bit. Yeah, so I always went for the punchline, and yeah, and always did voices and imitations of people, mimic a bit, since I was little. Yeah.
Okay, a little. What impersonations did you start out with? What were your favorites?
I started out with Letterman. I used to watch Letterman when I was like 12. It's nice to see it. Good to have you here. You would hope at some point, and again, I don't know when. At some point, things might change.
And so you started that right off the bat, and that end, and is that where you looked at kind of where your career was going from there? What happened then? Like, you wanted to do this. When do you say this is going to be something I want to do?
I think in college, I was in study abroad, and I was in Italy, and I didn't have much TV. There wasn't much English stuff, so I was just doing impressions to all the students, and I get laughs. And I thought, well, if I could try to figure out how to do stand-up, maybe I could, do stand-up. So I came back. I was in North Carolina. I came back and I did open mic at a club, and I just fell in love from the first night. Yeah.
All right. Good, Greg.
No, that's pretty amazing. So that's a great question. Did you enjoy doing stand-up in front of a live audience more? Or I mean, is Saturday Night Live, is it a live audience as well? And you really can't tell all the time on TV what's real and what's not.
Yeah, it's live. Yeah,
it is live. Okay, cool. And so tell me, I used to love to watch Saturday Night Live, when I was younger. Don't have the time now. Plus, I can't stay up as late as I used to. But tell me some stories like from Saturday Night Live. Like what's something that you can remember, either like one of the cast members, or I don't know, were you around with Chris Farley at all, or any of those times? Or
my first year was Will Ferrell's last year.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember one time, just a surreal moment. There were a lot of just surreal moments. One time I was in the bathroom, or I wasn't in the bathroom, but there was a security, and I wasn't in the bathroom yet. There was a security guy in front of the bathroom, and Mayor Giuliani was in the bathroom, going to the bathroom. And I walked in, I was dressed just like Drunk Girl, all makeup, dress, everything. And I just was standing in the urinal, going to the bathroom, and look over, there's Rudy Giuliani. It was just such a weird moment, very strange.
What did you do? Did you say anything to Rudy?
I think I did. I think I just gave one of these, like, hey, how you doing? But yeah, it was weird, but it was really cool. Yeah.
And then, when you the character Drunk Girl, go into more Drunk Girl and how that developed, that character.
I was doing stand-up in San Diego, and there was just a girl in the crowd that was yelling out. She wouldn't listen to me when I was talking to her as myself. So I just started impersonating her and yelling back at her as she yelled at me, and kind of shut her up that way. And that's how it started. Basically, you can't stop a drunk girl. You just have to get out of the way, That's how that happened. Yeah.
And then did you think it would go to that point where you're playing that character? Never
even thought, not even close.
Who came up with the idea? Did you come up with the idea with the writers, or how did that develop?
From that moment with the audience, that dialogue became the sketch for the first one. just being real combative and crying and all the different whirlwind of emotions drunk people have.
It's crazy. Well,
So tell me some of your mentors you had as a comedian. Who were some of the people that helped you out?
Um, Harlan Williams has always been a great guy for advice and just a great friend. Different people. Let's see. From the show or just stand-ups? Just stand-ups in general.
Stand
Rob
up show, anytime in your career.
Schneider, I went on tour with him for a couple years, and he's a great guy. He's coming on the show this week on Wednesday.
Great.
Yeah, those guys and Chris Kattan, yeah, those are the main ones. Yeah, those are the main ones. Yeah.
So tell me, as a comedian, like your ultimate goals as a comedian, have they changed throughout the career to now? Because you're talking, naming some of these names, they went on to TV, not just TV, but also, films and things like that. Was it an ultimate goal for yourself as well as a comedian to go further into acting and other films and things like that? Is that a goal of every comedian, do you think, especially when they're doing stand up?
No, I don't think so. I think some guys want to act, some don't. I did. There's so many things I like to do, so I even like to do music, like funny music stuff. But it's just like a little of this, little of that. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. I have a lot of fun with different aspects.
All right, go Greg.
that's interesting. You mentioned, Neil, movies and stuff and comedy. So Adam Sandler jumped into mind for that. Did you ever work with Adam Sandler at all, either on SNL or bump into him out in the world? Or
Bump into him a couple of times. I met him a couple of times. He's a great guy too. But no, never worked with him. No.
Your experience on Mad TV and what Mad TV was about. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, I don't know. I was just so fresh and young, and it was like, I'd started doing stand-up maybe a year and a half prior, so I didn't know what to expect. And at that time, I'd never done really any acting at all. So I was kind of thrown into it, but I think I did pretty good for what it was. There was this one sketch where I played Letterman, and it was this long sketch, and there was a lot of choreography, and there's a lot of stuff to it. And I got through it, and I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. I think I can figure this out. And then, got on SNL, like 8 months later or something.
Yeah, definitely. Those opportunities happen. And so that opportunity happened through Mad TV and different things. After doing SNL and different things, is stand up your favorite thing just to perform? Would you say go out there and perform as a comedian?
Yeah, I do love the live aspect of it. I like improvising a lot too. That's why I like my show, because it's 30 to 40 minutes. It's all improvised, and the guest doesn't really know what's going to happen, and that's fun to me, because you just have to get it on the one take. And that's a lot like SNL. You have to get it on the one take. So
exactly, and that's how I just try to, because I went live for so many years in radio. I make my podcast the same way. I'm like, whatever, we're not live, but we're going to play it. So give us an example of deep fake. Define deep fake, because I had no idea what that meant. And if we were guests on your show in deep fake, how would it work?
Well, if you're doing an impression with me and it was a double deep fake, we'd both have the deep fake on our face, which is basically, it's an overlay, computer overlay of, all these different composite images of the person you're going to impersonate, or just put a face over. And it's just like this thing. It's like a mask. Like, you can't turn your face too much this way or that way, or it'll blur out. And it just looks really good. If you have a really good camera to film it on, it looks very, I mean, a lot of people get fooled by it. They think it's.
So so you're saying, so give me an example of the character. So if I said I would be someone, okay, and you could rip on my Kermit the Frog impersonation, how I impersonate Kermit the Frog. If I was Kermit the Frog and you were somebody, so and so, it would look like the character as it's a deep fake in the podcast. Am I correct? Am I on the right
We
track?
would do we do it after you recorded it.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Put it on after.
So
Which
that's
one-
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying what I'm doing now too. I'm doing like an unfaked. I'm doing it just with no deep fake here and there too. Just so people remember, it's me and or someone at least. Because sometimes you just forget. If you see that face and it looks just like it and it sounds like it, and you just forget. So I think it's good to mix it up. That's what we're doing.
Okay. So you do your Letterman. I'll be Kermit the Frog. Okay. Let's just do that. Go ahead. Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. Thanks for being on this deep fake thing. I appreciate it.
Well, it's nice to be here, and let me just say right now, you look like $1,000,000.
Well,
Yep.
I'm feeling a bit green after COVID, but I'm doing okay, by the way. And also Miss Piggy's recovering very well.
Right, right. Well, she's a pig, so don't have any grand expectations. She might go back and forth. It's difficult to say.
That's great. All right, Greg, ask a question. Now, I mean, I never thought I'd be doing this, but see, I ended up doing this before. I like improv. I never did improv. Jeff, can I do that? Like, let's say we came up with the two things, like whose line is it anyway, and all the how they would create certain things, and then an improv. Do you enjoy improv? And I'm going to let Greg ask a question.
I love improv. Yeah, it's the best.
Because of professional wrestling, I could do an improvisation and saying we're going to wrestle each other. And I did this, I forget, with someone from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And I forget who I interviewed. Isn't that terrible? I interviewed so many people. I need to have a list, and my producer says, hey, this is who you interviewed. I love it because it's easy. Remembering lines is hard. I tried auditioning a couple times. I didn't like memorizing lines. I like to create my own characters, do my own thing. Maybe I should someday get and do a comedy or something. But improv's fun because let's just say we were coming up with an idea that you were going to wrestle me, and we could do that after Greg asks a question. This is me being, I guess, improving in the show. I just care less. I'll talk about whatever. That's how I enjoy things. When you're in a scripted thing, I can't stand scripted. So that's why I like improv. So is that one of your fun things where you do different improvs, or you had to do that in acting sometimes, or go and do certain things? Have you done a lot of improv types of?
Oh, yeah. I've done a lot of improv, and I just like it because you're so free, and you don't have any responsibilities except listening and reacting and being in the moment. And yeah, I really like that. But I also like acting because you have to make it seem in the moment. It has to be, you have to really do it a certain way so it feels spontaneous. And I like that challenge.
How do you remember lines? I find it difficult, especially if I didn't get a chance to memorize those lines completely. If it's such a long thing, like a scripted thing, that's hard. I never thought of that till I saw what you guys go through. If it's like, let's say 10, 20 paragraphs, you got to memorize. That's tough. That's
Yeah.
tough stuff, especially if you don't feel it and you're trying to read it. Is it a photographic memory? Is it something actors have, its ability to do that?
I think you hit it on the head. I think the best actors just have that photographic memory. They memorize the best. The best actors can just, if you have it on tap, it's ready to go. Those are the best actors. When you're struggling to think of what's next, then it takes you right out of the moment. So
interesting. That's a good idea to look at it, memorizing it like you're memorizing a test, like I did in college. I can memorize 150 pages, so maybe acting could still be there for me. Who knows? All right,
Wow.
Go ahead, Greg, with a question.
That's something new. We got to explore that a little bit later,
Yeah.
Neil.
Yeah, good.
So, Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah.
if you want to change your life, you got to make changes in your life.
Awesome.
Coming up next.
All right.
How about-
Now I'm going to have to do Elmo. Yeah. This is Elmo, and I'm excited to be on your show, Dr. Phil. Tell me a little bit more about why I'm on here. I've made a lot of mistakes, Dr. Phil.
Do you like yourself? Do you understand who you are? Because I'm looking at you and I'm just thinking, hey, this guy don't know nothing. he just he's moving his neck around, but he's not listening to his internal problems. You got a problem.
What is my problem that I always want to go and sing?
I can't define it, but look how your eyebrows are up. That's not good. You got to get your eyebrows down because now that
that's great because you're impersonating, going after me. So that's great improv. This is the fun thing, and and people just talk a little bit more about the Deepfake podcast in that way. That your podcast, the guests, you're telling them a character. Do you like some of the podcasts you've done with some of the huge celebrities you've had? What characters have you guys done? So people need to go check that out. Like, what character were you? And
well, I do Jimmy Fallon. That's the coolest thing in the world. Hey, dude, man. Hey, dude, man. It's the coolest thing in the world. So good to be here. It's incredible. I found a paperclip the other day. You know what a paperclip is? A twisted piece of metal. I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, no way.
And who was the guest? This guest was playing who they play?
I had Kevin Farley do it, Russell Peters do it, Charles Fleischer do it. I've done Fallon a few times. Yeah.
No, but I mean your guest, the celebrity guest. Who do they who they say they act like?
Oh, they don't. That doesn't always happen. That's very rare. Usually, I have them on as themselves.
And you interview as that person. That's so cool.
Yeah.
James Austin Johnson from SNL does Trump. He did Billy Bob Thornton, and I did Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka.
I have to off air talk about some of my other personalities, my dual personalities, but I can't do it here.
Why?
I can't do my dual personality.
Give me one.
Oh man, you're killing me. Oh no.
I'll do Dustin Hoffman, and you pick somebody.
Oh, you were talking that way. I was okay. Let's just go. I was going to think about doing one that's a fake character. Well, I'll be it. How are you doing today, sir? I'm doing fantastic. Being here, living in Texas and no longer in Philadelphia, West Virginia, I tell you what, I really enjoy how much more interesting people in Texas are.
This is Dustin Hoffman.
Wow, Dustin Hoffman, I think I might have watched you at one point in time. I'm just too busy, doing my thing.
Well, I don't know what you're thinking, but it's intruding on my space. Don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to think. But you've got the problem. Yeah.
Oh, this is fantastic. This is not what I expected. I'm sure Greg didn't expect this, but this is the fun thing. And you're just really good at impersonating people. What do you do? And I've talked to some major people that have done it, like the voice of Bart Simpson I've had on my show. I had the voice of Winnie the Pooh. I've had different people, and they talk about how they create these characters or are able to do this. Is it just practice, continue practice, listen to yourself? Some of these other voiceover artists. What do you do to kind of do it? To make it fun? What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's sort of a knack. It's a bit of a knack, but I think you just hear somebody's rhythm and it speaks to you, and you have an opinion of how to play it, because it's almost like not just mimicking, but mocking in a way, because you're kind of putting an edge on it. So I don't know. I think it mostly comes from not really trying, just listening, let it get in your brain, and maybe it's one you can do. That's how I do it.
All right. I'm busy doing this with my kids sometimes, and also my former students. I did the Kermit the Frog voice. I'll have to do this one. Boy, people are going to want to get back in this one. And this one is the best. The Rubber Ducky song. Are you ready? And then you can ask a question, you give feedback. Let's take this American Idol, and I'm going to sing the Rubber Ducky song, and you can be one of the judges. And you can pick any of your characters, okay? All right, let's go. Rubber Ducky, you're the one. You make bath time so much fun.
Oh, poor little ducky. Most ducks don't have long, and neither do I. This tiny speck of dirt is not just a speck of dirt. Inside are mustard spiders. Okay, that one got a little weird, didn't it?
Yeah, well, who's that?
That's David Attenborough.
See, I wouldn't
Yeah.
know. That's fantastic. I love it. This is call improv. Okay, Greg, ask a question. That the final question, and I might have one more question.
No, you can go ahead and take it. I'm enjoying this too much.
It's gonna be. This is okay. So, Jeff, your latest projects, is it podcasting, or also can we find you other places, other things as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a show at Oregon's Best Winery in it's September 17th, this Saturday at 7:00. OregonsBestWine.net. They have great wine, delicious wines. A little small winery.
Where's that located in? Oregon's Best.
Aurora, Oregon.
Aurora, Oregon. Okay, so my listeners are in Aurora, Oregon. Definitely check it out. Oh, so you basically on your website is everything there to basically.
Yeah. Linktree.com/Jeff Richards, or Instagram is the Jeff Richards.
Jeff, did you ever think this was going to happen? That you find out a podcast radio host wants to do impersonations? Now, give me your take on some of them. Are they pretty good? Are they okay? Would you rank them? What would you rank them?
I think they're good. I think maybe just go even farther with exaggerating it.
I'm not prepared today. It's
No,
a,
no.
is that,
Just a note.
I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Andy.
Hi, I'm Alan.
Hi, I'm Andy Allen. Tune into BPTV to see all of our great shows.
All of our award-winning shows on BPTV.
I'm not normally a one-upper, but I have many, many award-winning shows. Please tune in to BPTV.
We're back to the Neil Haley Show here on the Total Celebrity segment, and the Media Giant Effect is that's going to be new branding coming up very soon, I guess going into 2023. And I'm with my co-host, Greg Hanna, the founder of TOS C3. And I'm excited about our guest because, again, this guy knows I love heavy metal and he knows how to rock it. Greg, are you excited about our guest?
I am so excited. I mean, guitar players fascinate me, especially somebody that can shred like Chris.
Yes, so I have Chris Impellitteri from the Impellitteri. Chris, thanks for stopping by, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, and guys, thanks for having us. We're always grateful to meet new people around the world and make new friends. So,
Absolutely. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about music. How did you get involved in heavy metal, and how long has this journey been?
we started in the prehistoric age with the dinosaurs. It's been a long journey, I started playing when I was like 12 years old, right? It's kind of, I started like every kid, taking guitar lessons, learning music theory, all the basic rudimentary things you do. And then I got connected with, harder edged music, seeing concerts, got really influenced, and then got addicted. And, I think I actually started playing professional at 14 or 15 years old, playing in bar bands, and so the inception of Impellitteri was actually in my early teens, which is pretty wild. So that was kind of like the beginning of it all, how I ended up in it. I loved the sonic characteristic of heavy metal. I liked the way it made people feel. I liked the way it made me feel, and also it was a great medium for me to express myself emotionally with the instrument. So that's how it all kind of was founded.
I'm going to tell you, Greg, when my days as a professional wrestler, and I'll tell you this, Chris, as well, I'd be pounding the weights to heavy metal in Marion, Ohio, training to become a professional wrestler from the late, great Charlie Fulton and all these great wrestlers. And there would be a gym and it'd be heavy metal. And ultimately I went from as a college basketball player into rap music, adopting heavy metal. Because if you're in professional wrestling, you better be long hair, which I had very long hair, Chris, back in the day. I don't have no hair anymore. I mean, long down to like looking like the Undertaker, and everyone adopted that, Greg. So, Greg, did you have the long hair back in the day into music or not? Ever?
I wasn't blessed with the ability to grow long hair. When I had hair, it used to go whoop.
Yeah, you at least have more hair than me. And I need to shave mine again because I'd rather shave it than leave whatever remnants I have left. So Greg, that's basically it. That was my thing is, man, you get to pump iron to heavy metal. It's something, especially you think about Metallica, you think about some of the other unbelievable heavy metal bands. It was just something that, man, it just made me, I'm ready to go even before the hair bands came and the whole push towards the hair bands and again Motley Crue and Def Leppard and all the different things. Before that, I was into heavy metal because, man, go to the gym. That's what you did.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And it's funny. I mean, we were never a hair band ever. I mean, we were much more, especially when we first came out with our Impellitteri Black EP. We were much more almost borderline thrash, or kind of like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden on steroids.
oh man,
But we were just never the hair band. It's funny. I'm laughing at you guys talking about hair. I'm thinking you have no idea how many people think I actually wear a wig. I'm always like, dude, it's real. It looks bad, but it's real. But in all sincerity, heavy metal's never been about, for me, the hair thing. Yes, we had hair. I mean, we just didn't bother getting haircuts, but it was never for the visual medium like a Poison or a Motley Crue,
mm-hmm.
we were who we were, we basically didn't give a shit, our thing was about music, be as great as you can be on your instrument, that's, I mean, for me to this day, all I care about is being the best guitar player I can be personally,
Gotcha. And
so-
Chris, who like when you were 14 playing, in the bars, like you said, as a pro, getting started, like who was your favorite guitar player?
Oh my God, there were many, Greg. Of course, Eddie Van Halen was probably my biggest influence. My first concert, believe it or not, was actually Kiss. It was either Destroyer or Rock and Roll Over. It was the same stage set. But I saw them at the Providence Civic Center, and man, I was, I don't know, 11 years old. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's what I want to do, right, with my life. The guitar thing came in really more so when I heard Eddie Van Halen. Songs like I'm the One on the first record, Ice Cream Man, the solo. I was like, oh yeah, that's the kind of guitar player I want to be. But that was kind of, I don't know where I'm going with this, but that was kind of like my foundation.
Oh, that's crazy. I did a couple of quick reads because obviously I wanted to learn as much as I could. I noticed like you're like number 2 fastest guitar player, shred player, like in the world. I mean, that's like incredible. I mean, how do they even measure that?
That's, first of all, Greg, there's no truth to any of that. There are plenty of guys that I think can play much faster. I mean, I will say that, and I'm definitely to blame for this. I shot myself in the foot, I mean, look, when you're a young teenage kid and people take notice of you and they compliment you and, oh my God, you're the fastest guitar player and all that stuff, you don't know any better. You think, oh, this is great, so I got to get even faster. Yeah, I mean, believe me, to this day, I still play really fast, but I try to make certain when I'm playing, it has a purpose, right? It has to fit the song. And so, those accolades or whatever, it's just, I think people are trying to be creative with their media spins and all of that stuff. In my personal opinion, there is no fastest player, because really you have to play within the confines of the tempo of the song. How many BPM are you playing? 30-second note triplets, all the technical stuff, right? It really dictates how fast you can play or not. But I do recognize I certainly got lumped into that dangerously, so yeah.
So let's go. And when you're thinking about this whole process, what was your big break? You said you're playing at 14. What came to that big break that changed your career to become a professional?
Oh yeah, the break probably was given to us by a guy named Cliff Coltrari. He had worked at a label that was owned by Sony Entertainment. Sony label had subsidiaries called Relativity. And Cliff heard we're not copying Black. When I say the Black Album, everybody knows Metallica, the Black Album. We actually were 3 years before the Black Album or whatever. So in '86, we did the Impellitteri Black EP. And Cliff heard it it was picked up by a lot of the metal press around the world, right? Because we had done an independent release, and we had songs for people that don't know us, and there are many of you. There were songs like "Lost in the Rain," "Burning." These became like cult favorites, classics of like the metal community, especially like in places like in England, right? London had a magazine called Kerrang magazine, which at the time Kerrang was the biggest metal magazine pretty much in the world. And they gave us like 5 out of 5 stars. They called me the next guitar hero, whatever. And Cliff and Relativity saw the buzz that was going on, and they said, look, we want to bring you in and sign you. We were like, okay. And that was kind of like the beginning of us getting distributed globally, right? Worldwide. So that was probably the first break.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I got a good question that I've been dying to know the answer to. So you're an awesome musician, and these guys were awesome musicians. Who do you think would be your favorite, and why? Jimi Hendrix, Prince, and of course Eric Clapton.
Those, look, every one of those have when I say a sweet spot in time where you couldn't say one was better than the other, because I think about, for me, Hendrix, when I listen to stuff like Purple Haze is probably one of my favorite riffs. It's really aggressive, you know. Hey Joe, great melodic structure. There's I mean, Hendrix to me set the bar, and with a whammy bar actually too, right? He was doing things right in the late '60s that other guitar players hadn't migrated to yet, right? And the technology was there for them. I mean, take an old tube head, you know, oh, Marshall, turn it on 10 and run, you know, like some sort of fuzz space in front of it, and you get all the feedback. You can do the same thing today, but he was really the first to bring that, you know, to attention. And then you talk about Clapton. To me, Clapton, his shining moment was in Cream, in my personal opinion. I mean, that's where I thought he shined.
Mhm.
Clapton's always been a great player, but Cream was just amazing. And then forgive me. So there was Hendrix, Clapton, Prince.
Prince, yeah.
Prince, a composer, music, just a genius as far as the way he wrote music. People don't realize how many other artists Prince wrote for, right? Like Sinead O'Connor. I mean, he had a lot of hits, and you could just tell he was just this amazing, prolific songwriter. That was one of his, I think, his strengths. So, you know, I don't know how to compare that with Hendrix and Clapton, you know, because it's so different, you know. But Prince was actually a good player as well.
Yeah.
Oh wow. You know, thinking about your biggest highlights, I guess being Billboard for your band for X amount of, you know, top Billboard and then MTV. Take us back in the metal game. You're really respected well in that community from what you've done, right? Especially in the '80s. Would you agree?
Yeah, you know, look, so I remember when I was a little kid, right? I remember there were bands like the Scorpions would be a great example. I used to get this subscription when I was a little kid to this magazine called Circus Magazine. Every month I'd run to my mailbox because I knew it was coming, right? And I would look in the back, and there were these bands that just didn't break in America yet. And there were bands like the Scorpions. You'd see little things on them. Impellitteri, oddly, has kind of become that band. In America, I would say 99.9% of the population don't have a clue of who we are. Yes, we were on MTV in the heyday of you know, when our type of music was definitely glorious, right? And MTV played us a lot. Our record did well, but we were nowhere near the level of like Guns N' Roses or Metallica. They were way bigger than we were, way bigger. But what happened, and this is probably why we're talking today, something happened, which I don't know if it was luck, fate, whatever, but we exploded in places like Japan. Now, and it happened at the perfect time, because we come out in '86 with the Impellitteri Black EP. Then we do this record called Stand in Line. And that was, I think, around '88. But towards the latter part of the '80s, heavy metal and our kind of music was really in trouble. You know, rap was coming in, the whole,
grunge,
you know,
grunge kind of
yeah,
destroyed the big hair bands. Yeah.
So a lot of our peers, they didn't make it. And what oddly happened, and I don't know if it was luck, fate, whatever, Japan, we blow up. And all of a sudden now we're being put on the cover of magazines, and we're competing now with bands like Metallica, Pantera at the time. I mean, and we exploded. I don't know why. We sold millions of records. You know, we play. I mean, our first show in Japan, I remember, was we played the Tokyo Dome, which was 65,000 people.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know,
When was that? So that in the 90s you blew up?
that would have been 1988.
88.
So we started to really develop our following around 87 in Japan, but it got to the point where it's like, wow. And so a lot of other big metal bands started taking notice of us. But was interesting in America, all the labels now at this point, even the ones that would like sign bands like Pantera, just didn't want us, you know.
Oh
They
man.
just, which we couldn't understand, because we would go over to those places and we were technically in some ways probably a bigger band, you know. So but having said that, it was a gift, because from there till today we're still in the same label. We still do really well. Our records sell well, our concerts sell out. I mean, we even did a place in Asia about 3 years ago. We headlined a thing called the Busan Rock Festival, which is the first time we've ever played Korea. And I remember our bass player, James Pulley, for some reason, he had visa issues and couldn't go. So my buddy, Rudy Sarzo, he's played with everybody, Whitesnake, Ozzy, all these people. Rudy came in, rehearsed his ass off for like a week or 2 weeks with us every day, learned the entire set. We flew there not knowing what to expect, thinking, oh man, are 200 people going to show up? And walked out on the stage in front of like 30,000 people. And that's the kind of stuff that's surreal to me, because I'm very aware that, yeah, in America, it's like, who? But we play other countries and it's just like, wow, it's pretty odd. It's very surreal for me, you know, and the other band guys that we can go out. Even in Europe, we've done some massive festivals of bands like Iron Maiden. And, you know, we have as many people at the stage that see us, that see those guys, meaning they don't walk away. They stay with us, you know?
Well, and that's got to be great, and that's the thing. I'll ask a crowd question because again, I miss the days in pro wrestling when I was in front of a crowd. I've done radio and TV where there's no audience. You get your feedback in social media, you get your feedback in that, but the roar of the crowd, it's very interesting. They talk about pro wrestlers all the time, performers, and we'll get to that question. But go ahead, Greg. What question do you have for Chris?
Well, the question I wanted to ask you is about Guitar Magazine. Do they ever write you up? Should they be writing you up?
No, you know, it's funny. So you go to places, again, Japan would be a great example. I'm generally always on the cover of the magazines there. Burn magazine, which is the biggest heavy metal magazine in Japan, and also one of the bigger metal magazines around the world. I won Best Rock Guitarist. You know, I've definitely gotten those wonderful accolades, which again, they don't really mean a lot. It's I guess it's an ego stroke, right? But in America, yeah, I've had a lot of our fans and friends around the world that get frustrated. They say we get ignored by them. And, to be fair to the magazines, maybe they just don't get it. Maybe we just don't interest them, and it was funny because especially I remember in the 80s, the shred thing, and this is kind of the danger of being branded as one of these fast guitar players. I would get called wanker, no taste, no soul. And to be honest, for some of those older writers, I get it. I completely understand what their perspective was. I was more about, look, I don't care. This is about expression, energy, right? But for me, I've had that come up with a lot of people have asked us, yeah, why is it always Vai and Satriani and guys like that were always on the cover? Look, maybe they were simply better, or they catered to that particular genre and those media people. Versus us, we were much more hardcore metal, playing all the classic influence shredding solos, but it had its place and its purpose. So we just never really got embraced by them. And again, I don't blame them. It's totally cool. I tell them, you embrace who you want. It's cool with me.
Yeah, gotcha.
So that's the truth.
Quick follow-up, just popped in my head. Back when I was in high school, Jeff Beck was kind of big. Did you ever listen to Jeff Beck at all?
I love Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
I listen to Wired, Blow by Blow.
That's my favorite.
I've gotten older, I really find myself really gravitating more towards artists like Jeff Beck and realizing, maybe that's what those older guys were saying when I was a kid. Just playing all the really fast stuff. They're saying, hey, dude, slow down, listen to Jeff Beck,
Exactly.
and Hendrix and Clapton. I go, and as I get older, I go, oh, now I get it.
I like going back to this and having a conversation with you, Chris, because we're learning different things. I want to stick to a crowd question at the end because of the roar of the crowd and how to perform in front of a crowd. But when you talk about specifically enough music now, the new artists are not getting played as much as the older artists. It's really a benefit for you, an opportunity and promotion, that meaning you have new stuff coming out, But and you can tell me right now about that new stuff, and then also answer this part of the feedback that new stuff's coming out, but people are really gravitating to the old. It really helps artists stay alive and keep going compared to, you remember back in the 80s, like you were told you were somebody so and so and they took you off MTV, you were done. Now, because of Spotify, because of those streaming platforms, because music, kids are listening to 50s music, 60s music, 70s music. It really gives artists that are talented the opportunity to live on forever, even when you pass. So your new music's fan, tell us about the new music, but answer that also the fact that your music's going to live on forever upon metal fans. When all your band members pass away, you'll still be played. I mean, they'll still be playing you, and what that means to you.
Well, look, I mean, we certainly have worked really hard to develop our music, master our craft. And it's really humbling to think that we do have an audience globally that have embraced our music. And it shows the testament of that dedication has paid off for us. Where, it's interesting, our original fans, they've gotten older like we have, right? Everybody's grown up. But in some ways, it's had a huge impact on their life. I remember, I think I was reading something the other day. I think Paul Stanley of Kiss was saying something to the effect of why he didn't want to do a new record. He was saying something to the effect of he'll never be able to have that moment where he affects someone, like their first kiss with a girlfriend or whatever, listening to a Kiss song or whatever. And and I kind of get it. In many ways, kids that were listening to our Stand in Line music, with Graham, or listen to any other Impellitteri records, especially during their height, the popularity part of it, it probably was impactful. And it's kind of, in some ways, it's nostalgic, right? Because when they listen to that music, it takes them back to that time in their life. That was a really good time in life, So for us, I don't know if I'm doing a good job or a bad job answering your question, but, the time will only tell. 100 years from now, if we're gone, are people listening to us like
They're going to be.
like I listen to Vivaldi and Mozart and Bach?
Right.
Will they? Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
I'm sure there's definitely going to be a handful that will definitely be listening to us.
Trust me, I'm seeing stuff that's being digitally remastered for 60s music now, and it's crazy. Really,
Yeah.
people that weren't even as big as you were in the 80s. So just be ready. And be ready. Here's my tip. And I told another heavy metal guy this, and I'm going to let Greg have the last question for you. Because of Stranger Things, the last season, when they talked heavy metal's making a comeback in the United States, bigger than ever, thanks to Stranger Things. It's a thing that your team, everyone in heavy metal needs to capitalize on the Stranger Things, because these are younger kids that are listening to heavy metal. And what an opportunity. I don't know if you knew that. It's organic. I gave this tip to another heavy metal person that came on my show a couple months ago. I was so into the last season of Stranger Things, and heavy metal was highlighted in it. And they were really going back to that. So
that's great.
It's an opportunity because you're getting new fans to listen to heavy metal. So whatever way you're doing social media, wherever you're getting it out there, wherever groups you're sharing your music to, whatever types of signings, if you try to really build back out that US tour, young people are going to be big. That's my tip for you today.
Yeah, no, listen, I appreciate that. And it's funny when you're talking about things like embracing social media. We're one of the last bands that we never did. We always said, you know what, let our music grow organically. Fans will share with fans, or we call them friends and family, right? And we don't want to try to use media and manipulate media. So, trust me, I'm going to be your friend, so like me, right? We've always wanted to let you decide if you like us, right? Are we great? Do we suck? Does our music touch you? Do you embrace it? Does it affect you in a positive way? But we have also become cognizant now, especially over the past half year or so, that we better jump on the Instagrams and the Facebooks. And we've done it. We've just never done it seriously.
This is grassroots as reaching out to collaborate with people from Stranger Things, because I think heavy metal will be big again. And the fan base of the 15-year-olds, 20-year-olds, the 12-year-olds that are finally, for the first time ever, thanks to shows like Netflix's Stranger Things, exposing heavy metal to people. That's what's going to happen in the heavy metal community, because I'm shocked metal's not gotten bigger. Think of Dee Snider and what he's doing with on, I guess, Sirius and stuff like that. He's trying to bring metal back in certain aspects. That bottom line is it should, because younger people are listening to it because of cult classics. There was one song that was played in Stranger Things. I don't remember the name of it. It's now being played on the air. They highlighted that was from the 80s. And they relaunched it, and it's on all the pop stations. So
that's
to
very
think about. All right, Greg, last question for Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I don't know if you realize it, but this is probably going to get listened to like 5 million people in a week. And if you're reaching that many people, there's a good chance that somebody wants to check out Impellitteri for the first time. What do you suggest they start with?
Well, the newer stuff, I mean, I guess people could go on YouTube and pull up our Impellitteri Venom music video. I mean, that's a lot of our, especially the newer fans, right, have really gravitated towards that song. Some of the stuff on this new release, this anthology that we're doing that are my favorites, opening track, Victim of the System. There's no music video for that song. Another one is Perfect Crime with the singer Graham Bonnet. At the time, we had 2 singers in the band. And so, Perfect Crime seems to be another one people really love. But, if people are checking us out for the first time, they don't know who we are, probably check out Venom, the song. Cool. There's a music video on wherever, and you can check it out. So.
Sitting on your butt, watching TV, and you're surfing for something good. Just grab your remote and follow me to Bethel Park TV. BPTV, BPTV. It's at Comcast 7, Verizon 32, and even on YouTube. Made by Bethel Park residents, it's a little slice of heaven, 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 heaven. Be sure to visit BPTV, BPTV. Be sure to visit BPTV, Bethel Park TV.
Welcome to the best special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Greg, how are you?
Doing fantastic, Neil.
Toss C3. We have an amazing guest, the Love Doctor, Robert Mack. And Robert, how are you, man? And I appreciate you stopping by.
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, let's talk about it, Robert. How did you make yourself a brand that you could be known on getting on all these different shows as an expert? Because we all know there are 50,000 of you out there, right, Robert? But they don't have the branding you have. And this is one thing that as a branding expert and a social media expert, marketing expert, I look and say, I try to tell my clients all the time, based on who you are, doesn't mean that, and you can provide great information, you got to brand yourself. So how did you put yourself out there to being this known expert, Robert?
Oh, I love it, man. I owe you a PayPal or a Venmo or a Zelle or a check. A compliment. Yeah, for me, honestly, it was pretty simple. I never set out to build a brand or a business. I just set out to sort of share what I knew, what I learned, what I experienced myself. And I was doing it, honestly, from the sincerity of my heart, just trying to help people. From the very beginning, that was always, my approach. And I think that authenticity is contagious and it's infectious. And I think people can feel it. When you're being authentic versus when you're not. So I think that was sort of like step one for me, was just putting myself out there as authentically as possible in an effort to share from the sincerity and generosity of my spirit and heart.
I think that's the powerful thing, Robert, in that way. But it takes a lot of hustle too, right? You hustled, right, to get all these different people, like, where you were featured and stuff like that. Was that on your own, or you built a team to make sure it happened?
Yeah, so that's the fascinating thing, is that I was never really, I went to business school, I went to graduate school, but I never fashioned myself particularly strategic business thinker, even though I do that for other people. When it came to myself, I didn't really do that well. And so for me, I think it was mostly about alignment more than achievement. So I never set out to, I didn't chase any opportunities. I didn't try. There was a short period of time when I tried to do some TV stuff and it never really worked out. I tried to get book deals. It didn't really work out. When I sort of surrendered and let go and focused on continuing to be of service, it really did work out ultimately. And that's the strange thing and the fascinating thing is that the opportunities and people that were most helpful to me in my career and in building my brand came along more and more and more effortlessly as I didn't chase and I didn't pursue. I just focused on the mission and the task at hand.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. I love what you said. So, Robert, what are the top 3 issues that people bring to you?
Yeah, so great question. I'd say rarely do people call me as a happiness coach. Do they actually call me about happiness? In the beginning of my career, I, just called myself a happiness coach. I still do. I'm a positive psychology expert, but people were mostly calling with relationship issues, relationship challenges. So I would say that it's probably the 3 top issues that I've probably addressed or spoken to people about in the last 20 years has been number 1, executive presence or some form or kind of that. So for the entrepreneurs, we might call it charisma. For the athletes, sometimes we talk about just confidence. But for the executives, it's executive presence. Number 2 has probably been managing workload and workflow. So how can I be lazier but smarter? So how can I lean into lazy intelligence, right? How can I be a better strategic thinker, planner, and worker? And number 3 is probably managing difficult people and navigating difficult conversations. That's a really big one. And I'd say that one's probably competing for number 2 or number 1 these days.
Let's jump to that one, Robert. Give us some tips. How to handle difficult people. Because, or we define sometimes as adversarial. How do you push them away? Do you keep them out of your life, or do you figure out ways to deal with them, but keep them far from you in your circle?
That's a great question, man. I mean, number 1 is you need to access within yourself what they're having trouble accessing. So usually that's peace, and usually that's calm and composure. So number 1 is be the change you want to see in the other person. Believe it or not, emotional contagion and social contagion is a real thing. You can show people better than you can teach them or tell them. So show them through your living, shining example by being the peace and the calm. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest person in the room. Remember that. Number 2 is mostly seek to understand first instead of seeking to be understood. And so that means mostly listening actively, being present, reflecting back what you heard in your own words without judgment, and then validating, normalizing, and empathizing. That's a whole lot, but it sort of sounds like if I heard you correctly, what I heard you say is, you repeat it back to them and you say, did I hear you correctly? And if you can do that, that's like 75 to maybe 85% of the game. Most people just want to be seen and heard and felt and understood. If you've done that, you can build a bank of goodwill that you can later lean into in order to become a lot more persuasive and influential and hopefully get your way.
That's something that I think everyone listening, and I'm going to go get some feedback from Greg on that answer, needs to follow, especially when it comes to sales, marketing, relationships in business, or in personal relationships.
No, it's really true. In my opinion, keeping your vibration high, so when people meet you, I mean, the first time you are introduced to somebody, they physically meet you before you speak, and your energy is their initial introduction. And how you feel that, I know you felt good and bad energy before, and it just really speaks volumes to that. But who are your mentors? You must have had, 1 or 2 people that you really looked up to and studied. Who might those be?
So my parents were always, mentors to me, and I think most great parents are. Most of my other mentors were virtual, believe it or not. I really struggled when I was young to make friends. I was not all that socially adept. I didn't feel like I communicated that well, and was super shy and awkward and introverted. So I really leaned into dead authors. I leaned into thought leaders in the world. It was Abraham Hicks and Eckhart Tolle and Byron Katie and Rupert Spear and all those kinds of folks. But I did, when I came out of undergrad, I went to work for a management consulting firm for many years before I embarked on an entertainment career. And at that time, I had met a few people at the consulting company that were extraordinarily helpful and useful, supportive in me moving forward in my career, both within consulting and then outside of consulting into executive coaching. So Bruce Rogel, a good friend of mine still to this day, he was a partner at the firm. So people like that. But I've had both virtual and sort of, real live mentors in my life that I'm always grateful for.
See, and that's the important part is surround yourself with the right people, Robert, and then success will follow. because ultimately there's someone smarter than us, more energetic than us, more successful than us in defining specific ways. And if you can go ahead and talk to those people and learn from those people, and today in these interviews, I've taken some pieces of advice and saying, well, am I following that completely? Am I on the right track? And when you talk about dealing with a difficult person, that's one thing. You got to be excited about your book, Robert, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, and I love what you're saying there, Neil. You all are clearly, truly living this teaching right here. You couldn't be more right about the people part. You know, we all have these 4 or 5 different forms of leverage, right? If you want to build your business, you want to build your brand. Social capital and social leverage is just so underestimated, I think, for most of us. You know, do you have a deep network? Do you have a broad network? You know, financial leverage, media, and technology are also forms of leverage. But I love that point you make. And yeah, so I mostly talk about, of course, the social leverage, and that's what Love from the Inside Out is all about. To a large extent, that's what Happiness from the Inside Out is about as well. The one thing we know from the world of positive psychology, which is an Ivy League science that focuses on getting the best out of people, we know that relationships matter, right? It doesn't have to be romantic relationships, but those matter too. Relationships matter. So definitely excited about the book, and definitely happy and excited to see people live better, more blissful lives in general.
All right, Greg, you got a final question for Robert?
Yeah, I have a real quick one. So, you know, books are great, TV's great, all of that. You know, how could people engage with you? Do you do weekend seminars? Do you do online training? How does that
Yeah, I
go?
do all the things. I'm currently scaling out of the one-on-ones, mostly focusing on workshops and talks. People can find me at my website at coachrobmack.com. You can find me on most all social media platforms, including probably most consistently Instagram at Rob Mack, M-A-C-K official. And you can find both my books, Love from the Inside Out and Happiness from the Inside Out, everywhere great books are sold, including Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Target, Walmart, all the places.
Happiness is such an important thing, Robert, that people think they can't achieve now.
So true.
And I think my biggest thing is sometimes being more optimistic at times. When things go wrong, which life will always bring, how do you stay happy? How do you stay positive? And learning from people like you, sitting down with people like you at least understand the perspective from talking to so many people. We all can get the thought leaders, the best people to really drive home whatever issue or challenge you're going through. And you have to be able to understand there's going to be challenges in life. But I just can see from your ability to explain things in those top 3 things that Greg asked, when it comes to success, if you can nail those 3 questions you brought up of the challenges people have, life will be much, much easier. So my last question for you, and I was called out today by a colleague, optimism versus pessimism. I'm a pessimist, not as bad as most people, but I want to become more optimistic. What do I need to do?
Yeah, so we talk about it from a scientific perspective. We talk about it a little differently than we do from a lay person perspective, which means that there's an explanatory style that we all have. Could be pessimistic, could be optimistic. When we talk about it from a scientific perspective, we're really talking about how do we describe or explain when good things happen versus when bad things happen. So if you're an optimist, what you really want to focus on doing is telling a better feeling story based in truth. So what most of us do is we look at something and we see it or experience it and we say, well, that happened, it's true, I need to focus on that. But that's not really worth your time, energy, and attention, just focusing on something because it's true. Instead, you want to find a way of thinking about and talking about everything and everyone in your life in such a way that it's not only truthful and authentic, but it's also supportive and constructive in helping you to achieve what you most want to achieve, right? So let's say it's raining outside. Is it a bad day? I don't know. That doesn't support your emotional or psychological health, probably not your physical health either. Is it a bad day? Or do you really look forward to sunny days? And you know that the more it rains, the more quickly, the rain will be over and it'll be sunny again, right? That's much more constructive and supportive in terms of you feeling joy and peace and happiness, and maybe even getting yourself motivated enough to prepare for the sunny day, right? So the idea is, can you tell a better feeling story based in truth about everything and everyone in your life simply to feel better? Because when you feel better, you'll do better, and you'll also find that life goes better when you feel better.